mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts! How do we like our martial arts? We like them mixed! Yeah!
A very excited E. Casey Leiden get you all fired up for UFC Vegas 96. Yes, after a pay-per-view event at the Very Blue RAC Arena in Perth, Western Australia. No other place to be back to than the world's most famous Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Middleweights take center stage. Jared Cannonier taking on Caio Borralho. And then at the bottom of the screen, you see a whole host of fighters from The Ultimate Fighter. And only 4 of those gentlemen will be competing on the card as we welcome you to the UFC Vegas 96 preview show here on MMAfighting.com. Hello, I am Mike Heck. Hope you're all doing well. Joining me, this is kind of a surreal thing. I'm a little emotional, feeling a little verklempt, if we're being honest, a little verklempt. The one and only New York Rick. I don't even know what to say. There he is. Good to see you again. 2 days in a row. This is incredible.
Yeah. I've never been more in demand. Verklempt, though, incredible. Love the Yiddish. And yes, I'm excited to talk about this. So shall we?
Yes, I mean, it's an Apex card, which is, as everybody knows, your favorite thing besides GOAT conversations and fight order for events. These are the things you love to talk about. But honestly, I know we touched on a little bit on BTL yesterday. You were forced to try to sell this card on everybody. But now that you look at it, we're a day away. Have you warmed up a little bit more on this one? Because I do think it's going to be, it's an Apex card, but we've had far worse than this one.
As we were doing the exercise yesterday, maybe like I convinced myself a little bit that I care about this more. But if I'm being honest, like my eyes over on the PFL, like that's where my attention's at. If I'm being truthful with myself, I think Lockman and Kamaka is kind of the fight. But there's stuff to like. There is stuff to like on this UFC card, and I think that's part of the strategy, right? The UFC, even when they're delivering cards that I don't think are up to the caliber that we previously had expectations set at, there's something on it. There's always something interesting because the UFC has the deepest roster in the sport. It's not even close. It's not even comparable. There is nobody that is a close second. And so even at their worst, even at the cards that we feel are not, comparable to what we would expect from a good card previously, there's fighters on there that we care about. There's some fights with ranked fighters and stakes and things like that. So like, Caio, this is a very important fight for Caio, and Jared Cannonier has been a top contender for a long time. So even when we are struggling to find things, there are things to find on a UFC card. That is just by nature how it's going to be. But the thing that has me most excited, if I'm being real with myself, is the PFL this week.
Interesting. PFL, it is a pretty good card if you really look at it. I mean, the promotional stuff has not been fantastic from them, but it is a good card. Main event's real good. Kai Kamaka versus Brandon Lockman's a banger.
That main event. I care about that main event.
Super fun fight. And we have this main event over across at the world's most famous Apex between Caio Borralho against Jared Cannonier. And it's great to have you here for this fight, New York Rick, and I just somehow did a thumbs up. I still don't know how that happens. Truly do not know. But we've had conversations on post-fight shows and other programs about the art of the call-out. Why are you doing this? Stop with the thumbs up. The art of the call-out, how it doesn't matter, how it never really, it sometimes works, but truly it doesn't matter. And then Caio Borralho learned his lesson because after a sluggish performance from a fight that no one will ever go back and watch again, and he called out Dricus du Plessis before he's ready to fight for the belt, he goes at UFC 301, he fights Paul Craig, a ranked dude, he gets him out of there real quick, and then says, hey, I'm ready for a main event, no disrespect, but Jared Cannonier, I want to fight you. And how about this, New York Rick? Realistic call-out, realistic stakes, gets exactly what he asked for. This is pretty good matchmaking. It came together kind of quick because we were wondering 3.5, 4 weeks ago what the main event of this card was going to be, and then we find out less than a month before it. But What stands out to you about this fight the most, other than Borralho's successful call out working?
Yeah, it's funny. He might be like the Schrodinger's cat of callouts in the sense that like he's the perfect example of the callouts being important because like a lot of times the performances are a little bit grindy, right? They're not exactly like lighting the world on fire. And then the callout is the thing that like kind of like keeps propelling him forward because like it or not, like he's got a lot of momentum behind him and he's kind of somebody who is on the rise in the UFC. And it hasn't necessarily been like the exciting fight style itself, right? Sometimes he can be grindy. Now, last fight, I would say like exciting. Like he did the damn thing. But he's a perfect example of that to a certain degree. But then he's also simultaneously, and why the Schrodinger example, not the perfect example of that, because due to how long it took them to make this main event, I'm not sure that they were like gung-ho about making this. Like, I'm not sure that this was number one on their list of things that they needed to get done and to make. It seems like maybe this was like option somewhere in the middle, maybe MNO on the alphabet list. But either way, to your point, he called the shot. He got it. It's a fun matchup. Like I'm interested to kind of see where Jared Cannonier is right now in the middleweight division, and if he can clear this bar, if Caio can clear Jared Cannonier, like we're talking about 1 or 2 away from title contention. You're really in that conversation, and he's got a style that if I'm a somebody sitting at the top, Dricus or down, Strickland, Adesanya, like I don't know if I'd love to fight him. Right, there's not a lot of upside, and also the styles are going to be hard to clash. So there's stakes here. There are true stakes here, and to your point, he called for a shot and got it. So I like what's going on in this main event. I am intrigued by this main event, even though it has come together on short notice.
What a contrast between both of these guys, right, New York Rick? Because Jared Cannonier forever, at least for the past couple of years, he's been the forgotten guy in this division. Remember all these conversations? Who's Dricus du Plessis going to fight next? Even the Bo Nickel conversation we had last year. Who's Israel Adesanya going to fight? No one mentioned Jared Cannonier. It's like they forgot he existed, even winning a couple of fights in a row and putting on some good performances. People just don't remember he's in this division, whether he takes time off or gets an injury or whatever. And Caio Borralho, at least from the UFC and the promotional perspective, UFC's pushed him from Jump Street. They've given him opportunities. He was Mr. Co-main event right out the gate for like his first 2 or 3 fights. They put him on a pay-per-view in Abu Dhabi. They put him in pretty decent spots, like even main card at UFC 301, which wasn't the most stacked card of all time, but still gave him a prominent spot. How far do you think the UFC pushes him if he goes out there and beats a former title challenger like this? Because the DDP call was awful. I will admit that. This is a good one. And you mentioned kind of where this division's at right now. Is Israel Adesanya going to fight this guy? Is a Sean Strickland going to fight this guy? Is the Whitaker Chimaev loser going to fight this guy? Do you think the UFC just continues to really propel him? He could jump up to like a top 5 fight if he wins this one. What do you think?
It feels inevitable, right? Like to your point, it seems like they have broadcaster moves here. They want to elevate him. They have put him in positions to succeed and to continue to climb. This main event is no accident. Let's be clear about this. Even though you made a great point, like Jared Cannonier has been the forgotten man at middleweight, he is still the A side of this fight, right? He is still the one that is the name that people would know. The more casual fan, if you're looking, has fought in title fights, fought Israel Adesanya, fought everybody in the division, quite frankly. And so he's still the A side. But to put Caio in this position, they are saying, to me, what they are broadcasting, to me, what I am interpreting this as, is if he wins, he's lined up for those names that you mentioned. He is lined up for the Stricklands, the Adesanyas, the Whitakers, the Chimaevs, the everybody who's at the top of this division. I think DDP is still a step or 2 away, but I think that's next. I think that is what they are trying to broadcast here, and they are going to either get Cannonier kind of halting that momentum, or they're going to get Caio in a position where those are the only names left above you. Those are the only names left to fight.
What does Cannonier gain from a win here? Especially being, sort of the forgotten guy, like we talked about. He's not a guy that just comes to the forefront of people's minds. I don't know if it's him or the promotion or whatnot. It just seems every kind of conversation that involves the title, you name off 8 names, and then you're like, oh yeah, shit, Jared Cannonier. What are we doing? What does he gain from beating Caio Borralho? Does he gain a whole bunch from this?
I think he gains being able to stay in that position, right? I think he gains being able to stay as the guy that it's like, yes, we're listing off the names and oh shit, remember Jared Cannonier. But if he loses, I think there's a lot more at risk. I think he falls out of that conversation, right? He starts to become the guy who now is forgotten, not just in the title conversation, but in the top of the middleweight division conversation. He becomes a little bit of a no man's land type guy. Now, Jared Cannonier started at heavyweight, and so I don't think that a fresh coat of paint would necessarily be a bad idea. Like I don't think this is as dire for Jared Cannonier because I think there are options for him, right? I think he could be a pretty conceivable and viable 205er. Like I don't think middleweight is the only option for Jared Cannonier. So I think he's kind of like in a free roll here. Hey, take the shot, try and take out the young up and comer. If I lose, maybe I start thinking about what does 205 look like. But I think this would be the end of the middleweight conversation with Jared Cannonier, where we're looking at him as like, okay, you fight, another one or two, and you could kind of climb back into title conversation or against a top ranked guy, and then maybe that puts you into the title conversation. I think that gets put to bed a little bit. I think it's maybe closing the door on that chapter, but I wouldn't mind seeing Jared Cannonier at 205. So I think he's in a good spot almost. Like he has some options here, even if he does fall out of that top of the middleweight conversation.
That's interesting. The sort of the future divisional future, like just his future could be laid out by the results of this fight. If he loses, I'll just go to 205. No big deal. It's a very interesting concept, New York, Rick. Well done.
He has been a much bigger man before. He is used to that, So I don't think there's some guys who it's like, I've been cutting my whole life. I don't know if I have the size and the physicality to go up a division. He's not somebody I think that would be a concern for. He was a competent heavyweight before this, so I think it makes a lot of sense.
Hey, you know what? You just turned 40. Maybe move to welterweight is in the cards for Jared Cannonier. I mean, just keep going. You go from heavyweight. Let's try to be the Tony Phillips of MMA and just try to fight in every weight class. Go down to flyweight. Let's see if you can do it. It'd be incredible.
Poor Jared. I hope not.
Right now, Caio Borralho, big favorite, -278. The comeback on Jared Cannonier. +225. The disrespect of the killer gorilla, New York, Rick. What do you think of the lines, and who do you think gets their hand raised?
It is a little. I mean, as I said, like I still view Cannonier as the A side here. So but I think we all agree that like the prospect here is Caio, right? The one who even if he suffers a defeat here, this is not the end of the line for Caio, right? This is just, hey, stepped up a little bit too high, reset, figure things out, and step back. But at the end of the day, the style matchup is good for Caio. Like this is a decent fight for him style wise, and so I understand the betting line. Again, betting lines are based on public perception, not what the bookmakers think the outcome of the fight is going to be. They are not prognosticators, and I think people fall into that trap sometimes. But like, it makes sense. But I would not be surprised if there's some decent size money on Jared Cannonier just by name value alone. People are going, look, he's the guy. It could be in the way that like Robert Whittaker in his last fight, I was like, man, I don't know. Like it's still Robert Whittaker. And then you throw a few shekels on Robert Whittaker. But I could see a lot of that similar type action here on Jared Cannonier.
The pick, what do you got?
I would take Caio just on, I feel like the momentum is there, right? And as I said, like it could maybe Jared Cannonier is not thinking the way I'm thinking, right? In terms of like, I've got multiple options and I can kind of see where I'm going. But if he is thinking that way, maybe you're not, as motivated to get up and fight the young lion. The short notice nature of this probably isn't ideal for everybody, especially as you're the older fighter. So I don't know. I don't want to try to like get inside Jared Cannonier's head and try to assess his motivation. It's impossible to do that. But the things that we're looking at, the markers that we look at for this fight are stacking up against him. And so I would favor Caio. But if I'm betting, I might throw it down on Jared and just see what happens there.
Yeah, I think the value from a betting perspective has to be on Jared Cannonier. This would be a fight that would not shock me if he won. It would not shock me if Jared Cannonier went out there and stayed on his feet and pieced up Caio for a while. My biggest issue with this fight is obviously the age gap is gigantic, and Cannonier still at 40 is a far better athlete than most people walking the face of the earth right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the dude's about to drop to welterweight, so the dude is an actual freak. The thing is, he's fighting a guy who truly does not care how his fights look.
No.
Caio just goes out there and wants the W. That's all it's about. Gordon Bombay style, the Hawks, go get that W any way you can get it. Caio doesn't care if you want to go back and rewatch the fight. Caio doesn't care if we go on post-fight shows and be like, yeah, that was kind of a boring main event. Dude just wants to get his hand raised, and I think he has a clear path to victory in this fight. Just take Jared Cannonier down, put him on his back, and just keep him there. And there's a very real world where Caio does this for 25 minutes. Wouldn't shock me to see a late finish, but I think we're going to be hopping on here at 2 a.m. Saturday night, early Sunday morning, New York, reacting to this saying, yeah, that was a fight that happened and Caio won, but I don't think we're going back and rewatching this one.
But that's the brilliance, because he's still been able to capitalize on it, and through, just charisma. I don't know what the thing that he has is, but maybe charisma is the best way to describe it. Like, he's got a great look. He's got a great smile. He's got the fight nerd thing going. He's pretty decent in terms of like keeping his name out there, and it's been working. And so the performances don't matter, like where everybody's kind of willing to move past them. And I think we need to be fair. Again, as you mentioned, as I mentioned, the last one was pretty good, right? The last one did inspire some confidence and did go, yeah, look, maybe he's putting all the tools together here. But I do agree with you. I think there's a world where he's just controlling Jared for long stretches of this fight. Maybe it leads to a finish, maybe it doesn't. But I lean that way. I think that's the most likely outcome, because as you said, it's a very clear path to victory. That is the way you get this done. If you stand with Jared for long stretches, you're opening yourself up to some problems, because the dude has become a cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner striker, and he obviously has power too. So it's a danger. I wouldn't do it, and I don't imagine Caio will do it either.
Yeah, he's a pretty smart guy, very well coached. I mean, Cannonier's performance against Marvin Vettori was freaking incredible. Like, he looked like an absolute monster in that fight. So could that happen again?
It's possible.
Plus 225, maybe. I think it could.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good one. Could be interesting. Co-main event, Angela Hill, Tabatha Ricci. Good little scrap. We got two Ultimate Fighter finale fights. Ryan Loder versus Robert Valentin. Con Ofli versus Myron Santos. I have nothing on either of those fights because I didn't watch a single second of The Ultimate Fighter. If you did, I hope you enjoyed it. Michael Morales, Neil Magny. Main card opens with Edmund Shabazian versus Gerald Mearshart. Hurt my soul, New York Rick, when I went on the UFC website and saw that this main card starts at 10 p.m. Eastern. I wanted to freaking cry. What are we doing here? What the hell, New York Rick? This is crazy.
Yeah, it's the worst start time. Like, that is the perfect pay-per-view start time and the absolute worst fight night start time. Nobody needs this, especially with the tough finale fights happening. I also did not watch a single second of it. Shout out Alexander Cayley, the only one still watching tough. 10 p.m. is brutal. 10 p.m. is brutal. I don't get it. We don't need this, but this is what we get. This is what we deserve for being MMA fans.
That's true. This is what we deserve. What fight on this main card outside of the main event do you have your eye on the most?
Morales and Magny. Michael Morales is somebody I rate very, very highly. Like, I am a true believer in Michael Morales. I'm locked in. I want to see how far this kid can go, and I think he's the truth. And so it is. Neil Magny is that guy, right? Neil Magny is the test. Neil Magny is the test for all these guys, and if he can clear this, I think we're ready for some real competition here for Michael Morales, and I'm a believer. So I want to see if he can prove me right.
10 p.m. is ridiculous. However, I think I know you love talking about the order of fights. I think the first two main card fights are perfect. Shabazian versus Mearshart, perfect main card opener because someone's getting got. Either Mearshart is going to strangle Edmund Shabazian in round 2, or Shabazian's going to knock Gerald Mearshart out in the first 3 minutes of the fight. There's no in between. That's how that fight goes. Magny Morales is so good because there's so many questions. And not only are you very high on Michael Morales, but I looked this up earlier. Ian Gary was closed as a minus 500 favorite against Neil Magny, and Neil took that fight on short notice, and we kind of expected what that fight was going to look like. Michael Morales sits at a minus 850 favor right now against Neil Magny. That's crazy.
It's crazy, but man, like the public believes in him as much as I do. Like he has been one of the guys that as soon as he came into the UFC, I was like, yeah, like I think this is it. I think we're seeing something here. I think we're seeing something special. And so as we both said, Neil Magny is that guy, right? Neil Magny is that test. You mentioned Ian Gary. Neil Magny is a milestone, a marker, a step for you to say, like, Ian Gary, now you're ready for the big time. And so let's see. It's a steep price to pay, but I think it's right. I think it's the right price.
He's very talented. Only 25 too, which is even scarier. Bright future for the Ecuadorian Michael Morales. Let's bring Casey in. Want to get some questions in about this card and the things that be happening. Where's he at? There he is.
Hi.
No sleeves as always.
Yeah.
The great EKC. What's up, buddy?
Before we went live, I admit I did change shirts. I was like, you know what, this card deserves sleeves. But
wow,
I was gonna this card deserves sleeves. But then I literally put the shirt on and I was just like, oh god, it's so restrictive. I can't move. So I was like, okay, no, rip him off.
The card deserved it, but you didn't. You deserve to be sleeves.
I love myself more than that.
I get it. That's the right answer.
All right. We don't need chair spins anymore. If we go on a preview show and Casey's wearing sleeves, he doesn't need to even say a word about how he is.
we know this.
That's the review right there. That says it all.
I'm in full long johns and a parka. It's 95 outside, but I'm bundled up.
he's doing that thing where you have like 15 t-shirts on and you're taking them off one by one. It's just got infinite shirts.
All right. Okay. First comment.
Amazing. Currently 30,000 feet in the air. Thank you, MMA Fighting, for making my coast-to-coast flight bearable. Damn. How are you doing that? Good for you.
I got to say, I there was a little gap, right? Like when I was at ESPN, I was traveling quite a bit for fights. When I came to MMA Fighting, obviously Jose Young, shout out, is the guy who on the road. He's been traveling. I took a few flights more recently, but I hadn't taken it in that span, that gap between. Airplane Wi-Fi has really kicked up a notch since I last traveled. Like airplane Wi-Fi is like really a lot better than when I used to remember it. It used to be like I could barely send a text or get a tweet. Now like they're streaming. People are apparently watching this preview show. Shout out to you, Mason. Like thank you for watching us. Like they really upped the game there. Now everything else airlines do is horrible and price gougey, and I hate them. But the Wi-Fi, they have really upped the game. So shout out to the airlines for doing that.
How much are you willing to pay for a Wi-Fi on a plane? Let's go 4-hour flight. Not international. Just a good flight.
I'll do 20 easily, no problem, not even a consideration. Once we start creeping to 25 and 30, I'm gonna go, oh, do I really need to? And then do it. But 20 is like the no-brainer number.
Right. Do you expense it?
I mean, if I can. If I can.
Watch out, Yahoo.
Well, I've also maybe like started my own business, and maybe now I can like write off some of these things, and that's when you really get into the hack.
All right, thank you much. Airline talk, I like it.
Mike, what's your number? What's your number on a Wi-Fi?
I'm probably around the same as you.
Yeah, that feels.
I very rarely buy it though, because it
depends on the flight length
most of the time. Yeah.
Cross country, Casey, I think cross country. I think you go for it. If
Casey said it right.
LA,
like, yeah, 4 hours is like minimum. I'm not buying Wi-Fi in like a 2-hour flight. Like, there's no point in that. Like, I'm gonna be off this plane before I can actually do anything useful.
Agreed.
All right, this is a good talk. I'm learning.
Yeah, it's a good talk. We're learning. We're learning things.
Oh, sorry. We have UFC questions. Ooh. All right.
Ultimate Flying Championship. This card is incredible. Incredible. Casey's not even wearing sleeves. He almost wore sleeves.
Almost.
Prelims are weak. Main card rocks. Angie Hill is back versus Tabatha Ricci, a big one at women's strawweight.
I mean, there are fights, but no, this is not
Certainly.
a great card.
Yeah.
It's fine. I think I rate it higher than like Jed does, but amazing is not what I would use to describe this card.
It's a good card. Actually, I don't care at all about the tough fights because I didn't watch it, and it's just toughs, whatever. But the other was a Magny fight, Hill fight, main event, and the Shabazian fight. I like all those fights.
Those are all fine, yeah.
Those are quality fight night cards, fights. Man, yeah, it's incredible. It's not go crazy, but yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, no issues.
Yeah, main cards get good fights for sure. Fixing to drink a Yoo-hoo every day while I'm watching Yahoo for Ricardo.
Thanks. I don't know if there are any PFL questions, but like, are you guys also like intrigued at all by this PFL event? Like that was my lead here, that I feel like there's stuff to like on this one as well, but I don't know, maybe I'm alone there.
The problem with the PFL is that's a loaded question, loaded statement. I'm actually looking at it right now, and yes, you're correct. There are definitely some fun fights to watch, but it's one of those things like I'm honestly learning about these fights right now.
Yeah.
And so there's just
Problem.
and like yeah, so literally if I have nothing to do tonight, maybe I'll throw it on, but I'm gonna do stuff. So, but it's like tomorrow's night card. If you're home, watch it. If you have friends and need to see, visit old friends, family, need some, I don't know, need to organize your closet. I don't know, do something else.
Yeah, I get that. But you make a great point about the idea of like, sometimes these things just creep up and like the casual fan isn't aware and isn't tuned in and doesn't know. But like, you got like guys like Ray Cooper, like in the middle of the card, like a dude who's just going to go out there and try and decapitate somebody. Tyler Diamond is fun. Barzola's fun. Gabriel Braga versus Timur is fun. Like there's stuff on here. Neiman Gracie's fighting the main event, as I said. I'm a Kai Kamaka guy. Brendan Lochnane's awesome. Like there's stuff on here, but maybe people just don't even know. I wish there was a little more awareness.
We always kind of complain, PFL doesn't, we never know PFL. We don't know anything about PFL, It's just cards, but these names don't mean anything. Are they putting out lots of promos and things? Are they just not coming into my feed? Or
I don't think so.
Okay, I thought like maybe they're doing these awesome countdown shows that I'm just not watching. Like they're trying to tell a story, but I just don't. It's just not coming in front of me.
They do try. There is a real effort on their front, and I think they're like, compared to, let's say, Bellator. I actually think PFL puts a decent amount of effort into that, like long-term storytelling and like creating like video things and putting stuff on social and putting stuff on YouTube. Like I think they've been better about that than Bellator, like the previous era, the previous regime, and always kind of have been. The problem is, I think the names of the athletes, like there's just certain names that you don't know, and if you see a promo on your timeline that's like for a guy you don't know, maybe you don't tune in. Whereas with the UFC, the first athlete of the night, even if you don't really like have a particular fondness of them. And I think they have to kind of build up to that familiarity. But to answer the question, I do think they are like trying that. And I do think they have always kind of like put a little bit more money into the idea of like, we need to tell some long-term stories. We're trying to put out some video. We're trying to put out some good stuff on YouTube and social. But I also think they're a little bit like Bellator in the sense that like they try to sell tickets more so than pay-per-views, right? So then when you focus on that, you're focusing on like local area, you're putting efforts and marketing and energy into like, hey, let's try and fill the building a little bit, as opposed to, hey, let's get everybody to tune in. But growing brand, there's things to be done everywhere. There's no perfect answer for all this stuff, but it's a good card. Watch it if you're home.
Philly, I know PFL is happening because the MMA fighting promotion has been non-existent. Yeah, it's been kind of tough, but this should be a good one. Lochnane Kamaka is gonna be a scrap. It's gonna be a scrap. It's a good fight, but I just give me PFL with some hunger and some drive. That's all I want. Instead of Don Davis tweeting out, "We've made it. We're the co-leader 6 years in, and we've already done this. We're already this massive and this great." No. We're just getting started. We're doing this. We're doing that. We still have room to grow. You're nowhere near where you need to be. Just take that drive. Take that stance on things. Be a little more humble, and I think people will respect it more. Because when the brass says things like that, people just roll their eyes at them, and it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look.
And also, just like, it's better to be the scrappy underdog, right? Than it is to be like we're number two. And I think my record on this has been very clear. Who gives a fuck who's number two? If you're not number one, like, why are you fighting so hard to be number two? And also, there's nobody else. Like, you're kind of number two by default. So like, who gives a flying fuck? But it's better to be the scrappy underdog. It's better to be on the rise. It's better to be Caio than it is to be Jared Cannonier momentum wise, right? You want to be the one who's climbing. You want to be the one with the momentum upward. So I agree with you completely. Like, that's the stance I would take. And Brandon here has a good point as well.
Yep. Optimism. They had so much momentum heading into this year. Optimism when PFL got the Bellator roster, but it has been a complete waste this year. Not one card was exciting over. I thought the PFL versus Bellator card was pretty good. I did think that was pretty good.
You make a perfect point, and that's exactly what I was going to say. The combining of the rosters. That is all that they have to do. That is it. You just need to combine the rosters and highlight your best talent. This season has fallen flat because the names that you want to be in it are either not in it, or they're in it in a field where you don't care about who they're facing, and they're not facing the people outside the tournament. They're not facing like a Patchy Mix or a Johnny Eblin or anybody that like we want to kind of see these matchups. You've got some in one camp and they're kind of on an island, and you've got some in another camp and they're kind of on an island, and it would just be better if you had them fighting. And that was a big problem. I feel like they lost some momentum there. It's always going to be a problem. Now, I get it. You're selling TV rights for Bellator and you're selling TV rights for PFL. If that's the long-term thinking, and it's just like, hey, let's sell the TV rights and let's make the money, that's fine. Great. Like I'm not going to tell you how to run your business. It seems like that's been successful for you. As we've said, they're the number two. But as a fan, from a fan perspective, what we want to see is their best fighting their best. The same as we want in the UFC, we want to see their best fighting their best. Sometimes we get some good ones, right? We're getting Loughnane and Kamaka. That's a good fight. I really like that. But would Loughnane versus somebody else potentially be a little more intriguing, right? That's the question that I think we need to ask, and why I think the season is a hard format, and it has fallen a little bit flat.
Yeah, and also I'll probably remember if you remind me, but like I don't know. Wait, who's the 45 champ? Because it's in PFL.
Last year it was Pineda, yeah.
So is Brandon Loughnane in the tournament again? I see. I know it's a good fight, but I don't know where it is on the status of the 45 division.
Semifinal.
This is the semifinals, yeah.
So PFL. I feel so dumb. So PFL doesn't have champs. They only have tournament champions.
It's 1 year, yeah. You're the champ for the year.
Oh, okay. But Bellator has actual champ.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see,
that's the whole problem for me.
I
that's
don't
the whole problem for me.
So like, I'm assuming. So is this for the $1 million, or is this the semifinal?
No, this is the semi. This is one more, and then they fight for the million.
So does the winner of the champion, the tournament, does he fight the champ?
Not automatically. Not automatically.
There's no relate. There's nothing. It's just okay.
They can, right? If at the PFL versus Bellator event they decide like, okay, we're gonna put the tournament champ versus the Bellator champ, they can, but it is not assured, right? There's no like you're guaranteed to fight them. As an example, Renan Ferreira won and then is facing Francis Ngannou. Now he's not the Bellator champ, like that's kind of like, but we're filling in as like a an equivalent, and so like sometimes that opportunity is like you move on to the thing, but it's not guaranteed.
What is Ngannou and Ferreira? What are they fighting for? Are they fighting for a belt?
They're fighting for like a made up like PFL versus Bellator belt.
The super fight title, right?
Super fight belt. Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Are you serious? They made a super fight.
There's another thing. Yeah.
Dude, so do you remember that they would do those fights and then the winner would sit on a throne at the top of the stage?
That was pretty badass. I gotta admit, the throne was pretty badass.
That was cool, yeah. But Nagano's not part of Bellator, so I don't.
No, he's not.
So
it's this pay-per-view upcoming is not PFL versus Bellator. This is like built around that fight. It's just like the Battle of the Giants. It's just like built around Henan versus Francis. We are also getting Cyborg versus Larissa Pacheco. Larissa is not the champion of last year. She is the champion from the year before, but that is one of their best fights, right? That they can make is Larissa versus Cyborg. So this is more just like what I'm calling for, which is like, let's just make our best fights. That's what I want to see. I want to see them make their best fights. Yeah. And so that's what they're trying to do with this pay-per-view.
No, they are making their best fights.
This needs to be their 300. This needs to be their UFC 300. Like every fight needs to be first fight all the way to the top needs to be incredible on paper.
So far it's pretty good, and from what I have heard, like they are trying to do, these are our best fighters, let's put them in there. So to fill out the rest of it.
Yeah. So wait, so Francis, they're fighting for a super fight belt? What'd you say?
Yeah, just some trinket. Yeah. Let's just whatever
so
it is.
It's their BMF. Whatever.
It will have no history. It will have no history. It will not carry on to anything.
It won't be defended.
It's just like a trinket. Yeah.
I find that weird too. As a promotion, they're not trying to put like a belt on Francis with a win. It's just going to be like, so who's the Bellator heavyweight champ? I don't even know right now.
Is it who is the Bellator heavyweight champ? I don't know.
Nemkov is not the heavyweight champion.
He's competing for it.
Well, Bader isn't it? Is it still Bader?
I thought Bader
didn't Bader lose it?
No, he fought in a super fight title fight.
This is. Hold on, we're gonna look. Oh, Moldavsky. Moldavsky beat. Wait, is this interim?
No, yeah, it was an interim title.
Oh, he fought Tim Johnson for the interim. So I guess is it still Bader? I don't know. See, this is
Bader. I'm pretty sure it's still Bader.
This is the problem. Yeah. This is the problem.
Yeah, this is a huge problem. Ryan Bader is still the champion.
But Bader lost to Hanan. He got knocked out by Hanan.
No, but his belt wasn't on the line. They fought for the vacant super fight heavyweight title.
Oh God, this is so stupid. Sorry, can we move on? I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is the problem, and I do think, Casey, they're actually trying to avoid sticking Francis in that situation, because then you can use him however you want, right? If you go, he's the champion of Bellator, then he kind of has to like defend that to a certain degree. So you just put him wherever you want, which is the right move. Let's just do Francis versus whoever we can find that is a viable challenge.
All right. Dude, that's so crazy. There's only been 4 ever Bellator heavyweight champions. That's
insane. Yeah. The lineage of that one is very, very weird.
Cole Conrad to Alexander Volkov to Vitaly Minakov to Ryan Bader. That's it.
The Volkov thing is also so weird because it's like nobody even remembers that when you talk about him in the UFC. You're like, what? He was the Bellator
champion?
Yep. God, it's so funny just looking at all these, the lineage of all these titles. The first welterweight champion was Lyman Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cole Conrad. This is Cole Conrad. I think that made a name drop today.
Shout out to Sheen Al-Shadi who wrote a feature about what's Cole Conrad doing now a couple of years ago. It was tremendous.
Was he like a milk farmer or something?
Milk.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know more about Cole Conrad still than I know about the other champions.
We didn't know who the heavyweight champion is, but I knew Cole Conrad was one.
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. I got a couple super chats.
It's going to be tough watching the tough fights. Shout out Ryan Leaf.
I dare say it's going to be a tough hang. Another nod to our boy, A.K. Lee and Connor Burks and Casey.
Yeah. I heard Robert Valentine's pretty fun to watch, though.
Okay. So that's something to look out for. I like that.
On BTL, Jed said it'd be funny if John loses Stipe, but the funny part would be John getting an immediate rematch and Tom gets effed over again, which would absolutely happen. Because Stipe, how could you walk away if you're Stipe? How could you walk away if you're Stipe when that rematch is right there for you?
The money
And you're
that he would make.
and you're the main event. Yeah. And you get all the pay-per-view points. That's super fun.
That would be one of the all-time UFC, we're going to try and correct history here moves, and they would definitely do that.
That would be wild. That would be wild because it's
Tom
so
just waiting.
That's so possible. That actually makes a lot of sense if John loses to Stipe.
Yep.
And then what if John wins the rematch? There's no way they're not doing a third fight.
No, they wouldn't do Stipe again. They can't risk that. They would just move on. That's one of those where they go, we corrected history. Oh, John is the champ again. Now we move on. And then maybe that's when they consider Tom if they do it all, but they would definitely not risk that again.
Oh my God, that would be incredibly funny.
I mean, we're doing a lot of ifs here, but I'm saying they do the trilogy.
No way. No way.
He's 40. If Stipe's 42, you don't have a lot of time with him left. So if you can't do it, you kind of have to do it.
I think there's some who would argue that we don't have any time with him left now. I think there's Tom Aspinall being one of those people.
Yes.
All right.
Tom Aspinall has been hilarious throughout all of this, by the way.
Yeah, he's been very good.
He started out the way he approached this at first. I'm not gonna say I hated. I didn't agree with, but now he's just leaning into it in like the best possible way.
Well, I think he realized at a certain point, like this whole like respectful thing's not going to get him the fight. Being disrespectful is not going to get him the fight. So he's just going to say what he wants to say. You know, like I think he was maybe a little more thoughtful and curated about like this one path or another will help me get closer to what I want. And I think he's realizing like John ain't going to move one way or another. Like the only way to do this is UFC is going to pony up. So I'm just going to talk my shit. And you know what? It's been very funny.
All right. Got a couple more questions from Lazy Bed.
Fair.
Cannonier's 40. We talking future?
Fair. But he's like the youngest 40-year-old I can possibly think of. Is that fair to say? Like he's this guy who like does not seem his age, you know? And to that point, something that you said earlier, Mike, like his last win was like his best win. Like he looked as like the sharpest I've ever seen him, and he continues to talk about this like I'm always improving. Like he's right, he really has like looked better and better. So it's a weird thing to think, yes, like talking about a 40-year-old's future, but like he really like he's like a 30-year-old, 40-year-old.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I know he lost to Imavov, and I actually I'm really high on Imavov. I know some people on the staff are like whatever about him, but actually I think he's really good. But I didn't like the stoppage, and it was a very competitive fight until the stoppage too. So Cannonier is a young 40. So
he threw against Marvin Vettori. He threw 411 punches. Or strikes in that fight. 241, record, which I believe is the most ever landed in a middleweight fight.
Yeah, I think it is the record. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Man, that's
so I think he's just a little bit different, but at the same time, in MMA, like sometimes you hit a certain number. I don't know what that number is. It's different for each person, and then you fall off a cliff. Like he could look 45 tomorrow, and that is a real thing that could happen. So who knows? But for now, he's the other way. He's a guy who's been 100%. Looking refreshed.
Life starts at 40, Lazy. Damn right, Dave. Damn right. Let's go.
Love it.
Uncontrollable. It's not true.
Wait, for the podcast listeners?
Uncontrollable diarrhea starts at 40. You're welcome, Vox Media Podcast Network. Anything else? We'll take the best. One more. We gotta roll out. Guess there's any weigh-in drama.
I tried to put PFL over. I hope they see that. I hope if anybody was watching that, they don't think that I'm trying to.
Oh, you did a great job. You did a great job.
I'm trying.
I have a mild interest if my plans fall through tonight, that it's like, you know what, I'll
Good.
throw on ESPN.
Throw that
Plus.
on. I think Lockman and Kamaka deserve that bare minimum.
Oh yeah, I agreed.
It's important, but it's also important to note that we want them to be good. We want to root for them.
Yes.
We want them to be successful. So when we say these things about things that they need to improve on, it's not to be a dick. It's just like, this is what you need to do to be better because we want you to be a viable threat. Dana laughs at you. Like, he legit laughs at them. He tells jokes about them. When Brendan Allen and Marvin Vettori had a casino fight, Dana was dropping in the Twitter comments saying, "Oh, it was a PFL event, so it must have been fight of the night." Like,
Christ, I didn't
two of
even
his
know that.
fighters. Yeah, two of his fighters stole the headlines from a PFL card for fighting in the casino, and Dana was like, "Yeah, it was a PFL event. It was the fight of the night." Like, that's not good. That's not good.
We're at a point in this sport where, like, I'm just trying to compare to any other sport where, like, I don't know who runs basketball. I don't know if two basketball players get in a fight in a casino and the story isn't the actual fight in the casino. The story is making fun of the reason they were there or something. You know, it's just like they got in a brawl in public casino. Two professional fighters in the UFC, highly ranked, and that's just like whatever.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's just like, that's not. You know what I mean? Like, this is such a crazy bar that this sport has.
No, totally.
Like
that would the story would be the fight in any other capacity, but in our sport, that's like Muhammad Makhachev and Manel Kape. It's like the cutting is the story, and it's not like, oh yeah, but also they've like brawled twice in public. Like they've also like fought in public twice.
Muhammad Makhachev went up to Manel Kape and said, "Hey man, let's take a picture for our Muslim brothers." And then he sucker punched him in a hotel lobby. Like, and he admitted it. And then he showed up after the fight. He's like, "Yeah, man, I did that. Guy sucks. He
but the biggest story is like, where's he gonna go?
Yeah.
Where's he gonna go? Dana White says matchmakers don't like him. Where's he going? But I think that's Casey's point. And it's crazy
for sure. It's crazy.
It always kind of just, because every once in a while I'll watch like regular Sports Center or regular just sports podcast, and I'm like, oh man, they talk about everything so differently. Like, it's just, it just throws me off. All right, and one more super chat from Chase.
In my scenario, would they strip Tom of the interim?
I love this idea. No, you know what? I can't.
No,
I'm trying to like do a kayfabe thing. I can't say that because I actually think Tom is the best and the man, and I love Tom and don't want him to be stripped of anything.
Just make him the co-heavyweight champion. Like, is anyone gonna bat an eye? Can we stop with this interim thing? Just make him.
Oh, so now we're gonna do co. Oh wow,
Yes.
This is a thing.
Do it.
Co-leader,
and he's an actual champion. He gets all the things that come with being an actual champion. Like, John could be the
co-champion.
Sort of, John's the draw. John's the big name. He's you pay extra money to see John Jones. He's the Andre the Giant of the occasion, of the situation. And Tom's just the Mr. Perfect. He's the workhorse. He goes in there and has classics and just gets dudes out real quick, and he's fun and he's young and energetic. And then John Jones can just like fight big fights, and everybody gets the same weight on everything. So we don't have to have these arguments anymore.
I actually think it hurts him though. I think it hurts him because we want Tom to be like disrespected. You know what I mean? Like, he has to, like, the story now is Tom being suppressed and disrespected. If they try to like level the playing field, then it's like you lose some of that. We want Tom to be like, as we said with PFL, like the scrappy, plucky underdog. So I feel like he has to be like, the promotion has to kind of cut his legs out so that when he eventually succeeds, he gets his Daniel Bryan moment. It's, it's gonna, the ceiling's gonna come off.
That's true.
Manchester, John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Last fight on John Jones's contract. No, actually, they would never do that because he can't. He can't fight
like
for a
6 more
championship.
fights on his contract.
Oh, okay, so then last fight of John Jones's career: Tom Aspinall, John Jones, one night only in Manchester. Oh, it's gonna be magic.
John would never fight in Manchester.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't.
No, never. All right, and one last question. Here we go. Oops, wrong screen. Hold on. Boop, sorry. Where'd he go? There we go.
Rick, Mike, and Mustache. I'd love to know who you think is the biggest prospect from Fighting Nerds.
Off
Oof.
dome, it's got to be like Gene Silva, right? But like, I don't know. I'm not
I
aware
think
of
it
the
might
full
be
roster right now.
I mean, Prochus isn't really a prospect because he's 31. Golly, man, that guy.
It's
That guy's
yeah.
an absolute
I
demon.
love Process, and I'll go ahead and call him a prospect because he hasn't fought a top. Wait, no, was Leach top 15 or no? He was out of it.
I
No,
don't think he was, but like he's like
Right
equivalent,
there.
right? We'll
Yeah.
he's a
consider
top
it.
20 guy at worst. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
worst. And the fact that he
Oh
finished
man,
him on the feet. Yeah,
dude,
Process for
they're
me just because it's recent, but obviously him and Gene Silva. But who knows? Maybe
it's
wrong.
legit insane. No, because then you've even got like guys like Hoofy, like they've got such a sick. It's what they're doing is nuts right now. Like they've got so many people who are you're just like, yeah, those are guys that are going to be around for a bit. Shout out to Fighting Nerds, and also I've said this before, but just I love the simplicity of the gimmick. Right, you just throw on the glasses and that's it. Like you don't need to do more than that, and you're putting the glasses on Cormier. Like I am an extremely big fan of what they're doing from a marketing and branding perspective, but also just like man, they got some fighters there. They got some absolute beasts on that roster.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing is the way they've marketed themselves in a very creative way in a world where the UFC cuts your legs off all the time.
That's
as far
right.
As like
That's right.
being an individual and stuff. I remember actually right when the Reebok uniform thing kicked in. And I remember fighters and coaches talking about like, oh, this sucks because this like one of the parts that they loved about the sport is this. Well, you watch Karate Kid and it's very this dojo versus that dojo and things, and MMA was like that too. It was like fighting nerds versus AKA and stuff. But because of the uniforms, it's much more difficult to follow that because everyone would have a big patch, AKA patch, a big Black Zillions patch or something. So the fact that fighting nerds have been able to have a team name in a world where the UFC does not want any individualism as far as teams, especially. This is good, and yeah, good on them. Is that the gym name, or is that like an unofficial name they kind of have? Do you know? Fighting Nerds, I guess. Oh, so it's an actual gym in Brazil that's called Fighting Nerds.
I previously thought it was more of a team, right? Like more of like a wider net, but
It's called the Fighting Nerds Combat Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's. I mean, I believe that's the name of the gym. I don't know.
I think you're right. Yeah. Combat Club. Yeah. Yeah, but they're on page and everything. All right, cool.
By the way, like
the gimmick.
This is from Reddit, so the accuracy of this may not be correct, but it feels correct. So hopefully it is. The Fighting Nerds are now 12-0. This is from 1 month ago. The Fighting Nerds are now 12-0 in the UFC after just 3 years since their debut on the Contender Series. A combined 40-fight MMA win streak with only 4 UFC fighters. Carlos Prates fights Li Jingliang at UFC 305, so that would then make it 13, right? That would improve it. Caio is the number 12 ranked middleweight. So then that could potentially push it to maybe like 14 in a row. Like they're just cruising, man. They're on fire. Now, I don't think it's only 4. Like there's more to that team, but either way, like
there's more coming.
They've got like what like the Habib, the Abdul Manap team has right now, in my opinion. Like they've got this like feeling of like they're almost way bigger than the sum of the parts, right? Like like you're fighting somebody from Team Fighting Nerds, and it's just like, yeah, like we're in for a rough night, and they don't lose.
Yeah, they got a few fighters. They got a few fighters in LFA that are undefeated on the way up too. So
yeah, there's certain teams that have like a moment. They're having a moment right now. It's like every once in a while there's like AKA is on fire, right? When it was Luke and DC and Habib, and it was just like AKA has and Kane, AKA has it right now.
CKB, CKB-ish, yeah.
CKB had it. Nova Unyao had it at various points. Obviously, oh my god, Shogun Vanderlei. Oh my god, my brain is on. Yeah, Shoot a Box had the moment. Like there's these teams that just have it. They're having a moment right now. They've got something. So shout out to them.
Big momentum.
Real quick.
Did you see Borralho saying the glass of nerds thing is anti-bullying thing shows nerds can make it? Yeah, you said that on the Contender Series.
Yeah, and now he's, doing good guy stuff with it too. It's incredible.
Let's go.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, to a man named Rick who brought so much joy to our lives. Hair always coiffed and thick. There with his crystal blue eyes.
My eyes are actually green, but shout out to you.
Happiest trails, fortune along the way. You'll always be our boy Rick, a staple in MMA. Wow, poem.
Oh,
Thank you, Lazy Ben.
Poem. And with that,
I'm not done yet. I'll see you again on another show.
Post show tomorrow night, or I guess early Sunday morning.
Oh, before we get out, ooh, I'm too bright. Sorry. Watch LFA tonight. It's on UFC Fight Pass. 2 of my teammates are fighting. Cody Davis, I think it's the 3rd fight from the top. Former champion. He's on his road back to get that belt back for the LFA. And my 6'6" welterweight teammate Luis, I can't even say his last name, Francelli. He is fighting on the LFA card too. I think he's on the YouTube part. He's 3-0. He is insanely good, and insanely good striker. 6'6" welterweight. Watch him. LFA UFC Fight Pass tonight. It'll be awesome.
There you go. All right, hit the music. We done. Watch PFL tonight. And
watch everything tonight.
Yeah.
Don't ignore your family, ignore your friends. Watch MMA tonight.
Yes, and tomorrow. People's Pre-Fight Show, 6:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, because 7 p.m. prelim and a 10 p.m. main card. Golly. And then Rick's going to join us for the post-fight show as well. So lots of fun coming your way this weekend. We will also, yes, somebody's got to do it, friends. Somebody's got to do it. We will keep you updated on the rematch of all rematches between Floyd Money Mayweather and John Gotti III. Yeah. Get excited, everybody. For Casey, for New York Rick, I am Mike Heck. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.